We have to start from talking about the truth. One of the things they say with Canada is, oh, there's a 270% tariff on dairy products going from the U.S. into Canada. Well, you know what the real tariff is? Zero. That's a big difference between what the truth is. So there's a certain amount of goods, dairy goods, that go to Canada every year, and they go at 0%. If we exceed a certain amount, there's this ridiculous 270% tariff, but we've never encountered it. And the USMC renegotiated it and raised the level that's under zero. Trump should be congratulated for USMC raising the amount of dairy that goes in at zero. But we have to have an honest debate. We can't go around saying that there's a 270% tariff when that's not really the truth.
So there you go. You see, Senator Rand Paul is not in. He is really wanting to know, why are we raising tariffs? He is going back to those traditional conservative beliefs. It used to be Democrats that were like, we need to get some strategic tariffs going on so that we can, help our labor, our unions. Right now, Trump has done such blanket tariffs that Democrats are having to pivot and use traditional Republican talking points to explain, like, yo, this is too far. And I have the perfect explanation of how tariffs are supposed to work. But before we get into that clip, thank y'all so much for clicking on this video. Thanks so much for supporting. If you're here for 2 minutes, if you end up being here for the entire video, I appreciate it so much. This is the Opinion Caucus. My name is Jamie. This is where you can get all your political news and pop culture events that are going on currently. But let's go ahead and get straight up into this video, like I said. So right here, we hear Senator Rand Paul. He's explaining, yes, we've never even hit the 270% threshold. Actually, that threshold is so high, and it was just raised even higher, we won't ever hit it. Right now, it is 0%. It is a free trade agreement. There is no tariffs going back and forth between Canada. And starting tomorrow, we're going to put them in the position where they're going to do retaliatory tariffs on us. We're going to put them in a position where we're now charging them more than 0%, which is what they were charging us for our goods to come across. And this is going to hurt hardworking people. This is going to hurt our small farmers. And we all saw what Donald Trump posted the other day talking about big businesses aren't crying. Of course, big businesses aren't crying because guess what? They can withstand a 30% tariff. That's 30 cents on the dollar, by the way. What small farmer do you know? And I live in the South and I live around a bunch of farms. I don't know one small farmer that can take a 30%, a 30 cent on the dollar blow. They're barely making profit as it is. That's the reason why USAID was so important, because it was taking the food that we make here in America, which is more than we could ever eat in 2-3 lifetimes, all of us combined, more food than we can eat, and we give it to people that need it, that are less able in countries such as Africa. Now we have this next clip that is currently up from Senator Cabell. She's about to ask Mr. Greer, why didn't you just do strategic tariffs? Mind you, that has always been something that Democrats typically push for. Like with Joe Biden, he did the Chips and Science Act, and he also did it. He did it so that we can do semiconductors here in America. We were less reliant on China to provide the semiconductor chips, because we saw during the pandemic that, oh crap, these are the only people making these chips. And now our manufacturers, our car industries, the prices are going up because we do not have the chips here made at home. That is a way of doing strategic tariffs. Because now, since we have semiconductor chips factories here, why we don't need to be reliant on China's chips. We can now raise the price so that our semiconductor factories can be now competitive. You know what I'm saying? But let's go ahead and listen to her question, Mr. Greer, and ask him, why aren't you just doing this method? Do tariffs. We are fine with you trying to make sure that we're competitive, but do it in a way that makes business and makes the stock market, which is why it's dropping, understand that, hey, we are committed to this. And this is not just going to be something that's only here for this presidency, but something that the next president can build on.
Questions for members, but you can see all my colleagues, we are thoughtful people with specific issues about our constituencies. I just met with raspberry growers. They're concerned. They want to know if they're going to get some seat on a council so they can have their issues heard. I'm for trade. I represent trade. I represent a trade economy. I represent the success of what innovation and trade get you. But you're coming here this morning with this not only tanking of the market and 401s, now you're coming here telling me that tariff is the tool. And I'm telling you, innovation is the tool. You're telling us in your testimony you want a tariff on semiconductors. I'm saying that the last administration and this organization here passed the Chips and Science Act so we could reshore semiconductors here in the United States. So you're not going to win the innovation economy by tariffing semiconductors and reshoring that. I don't know what you think.
This is not about you putting the tariffs on. This is about how you're putting the tariffs on. How you do something matters just as important as what you're doing. And then when you're just trying to be taking the Elon Musk approach of taking a hammer and just breaking and hoping that whatever you break doesn't get that broken, you can fix it fast enough, approach to government, that's not something that is easily reversible. We see this currently with the way the stock market is growing. This is the Dow Jones today. Yes, you're seeing that it's having some gains. We're at 38,046.31. You see a little gain. You think that Democrats want the government to go to the crapper? No. We want our 401ks to be growing. We want President Trump to do a good job. Because it doesn't just affect Republicans, it affects Democrats too. 401ks don't got a candidate on it. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to take a while and a long time before people's 401ks come back up to where they need to be. We saw earlier today the S&P 500, it was having gains as well. And now look at that. It took a massive plunge, a very, very massive plunge. These are people's retirement accounts that we're looking at. 62% of the American public have retirement accounts in one way or another. It affects the majority of Americans. People like to think that is what? 100 years ago when it was only the rich people having retirement accounts. No. Everybody's invested in the stock market. Why? Because we are a country of innovation. We are a country of putting good things, good businesses together and wanting to profit off of that in one way or another. We're capitalists at heart. But of course, Donald Trump is just not understanding the ramifications, and he decided to add additional tariffs on China, which is why you saw Rand Paul come out. We need to take this power back. He is being power hungry at this point. And Republicans, you can no longer blame this economic issue on Democrats, on Joe Biden. This is no longer our government. Hear it best said from John Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, a Republican, somebody who's backing Trump, who's been a really big Trump supporter. Listen to what he had to say.
It's been painful, but it may turn out well. It may not. If it doesn't turn out well, I think the president will recalibrate.
To that point, do you think it's Donald Trump's economy now?
Oh, I think it is. There's no question. I think once he decided to add the tariffs, clearly, I mean, he will be held responsible, as he should, whether it turns out good or it turns out badly.
Is there a point at which you would consider supporting taking tariff authority back into congressional hands? There have been some efforts in the Senate to do that.
Well, if I finally concluded that what the president is proposing is not going to work, or if the treatment is worse than the disease, sure. And I'm going to look at Senator Grassley's bill very closely. But I'm not there yet.
And you heard him. He said he's not there yet, but he is strongly considering it. There was already about 7 people on the Republican side who have said that they are ready to push for it and they're ready to take these tariffs off. So there's already 7. Is this a possible 8th coming up? Because Republicans, like I said, traditionally are not the party that is trying to do tariffs. Yeah, you know you got it bad when you have China quoting past Republican presidents. Listen to this.
You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries, and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group.
And this is the Chinese embassy posting this on X on a platform that it knows will reach back at Donald Trump. This is a direct shot at our president. And this is just sad because China says they're not backing down. This comes from the BBC. China says that Donald Trump, you want to come back at us because we're going to impose an additional tax on America and you're going to levy, what, 50% on us? Do it. That would make the tariff a staggering 104%. That's $1.04 on every dollar for a product that comes here. No more dollar tissue. That's for certain. But that's crazy. That's literally the vast majority of products that Americans rely on and purchase from Amazon. About 60% of that, between 40 to 60% of that, comes from China. Small businesses, your Gildan t-shirts, China. I don't know where this is going, and I hope that they reverse course because, like I said, if Donald Trump succeeds, we all succeed. I did not vote for him because I did not think that he had the ability to police himself and his urges, and his urge to be right, his urge to not back down, his urge to be driven by his ego. And because of that, I didn't vote for him. Like I said, I wanted the smart woman, but we got the man, we got Donald Trump. And it looks like he does not give a crap about middle America. He doesn't care about the people that are the most vulnerable. He doesn't even care about small business. He's worried about, and I don't think he even cares about big business to that point because he knows that they can take this, even though he might do care about them because he's been floating around giving them a tax break in some form because of the tariffs. So I guess big business will get something. But all the little guys doesn't give two craps about us. But y'all tell me what y'all think about all this in the comments. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for giving me just a little bit of your time to share a little bit of information with you. If there's any news that comes up that you want me to cover, whether that is pop news or political news, send that to me and I will definitely make sure to cover it. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's day and I hope y'all learned a little something. Bye.